This morning, I was watching a video from a girl who had a message for Americans. And she was responding to the question, has any country in recent history successfully fought off fascism? And her response was, yes, India has. It was an incredibly interesting video, and I reposted it, and I highly suggest that you check it out. But I really honed in on one of the things that she said. She was talking about that they had reached the 7th stage of genocide during their fight to defeat fascism. And I had never heard of the stages of genocide, so I went and looked it up. And apparently, there are actually 10 stages of genocide. And this is what I found from the Genocide Education Project. The 10 stages of genocide was a document developed by Dr. Gregory H. Stanton, a professor at Mary Washington University and the vice president of the International Association of Genocide Scholars. Stanton also leads Genocide Watch, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the fight against genocide. 10 Stages of Genocide was originally written in 1996 at the U.S. Department of State as the 8 Stages of Genocide, presented at the Yale University Center for International and Area Studies in 1998. And it was then revised in 2013. And I want to share this whole article with you because I think that understanding the process or the steps to genocide is the best way to prevent it from happening in the future. And since we're there now, it's more important than ever. So let me continue with this. The 10 Stages of Genocide is a formula for how a society can engage in genocide. Genocide cannot be committed by an individual or small group. Rather, it takes the cooperation of a large number of people and the state. The genocidal process starts with prejudices that continue to grow. By knowing the stages of genocide, citizens are better equipped to identify the warning signs and stop the process from continuing. The 10 stages of genocide are classification, symbolization, discrimination, dehumanization, organization, polarization, preparation, persecution, termination, and denial. So here we go, the 10 Stages of Genocide by Gregory H. Stanton. Genocide is a process that develops in 10 stages that are predictable but not inexorable. At each stage, preventative measures can stop it. The later stages must be preceded by the earlier stages, though earlier stages continue to operate throughout the process. Number 1, classification. All cultures have categories to distinguish people into us and them by ethnicity, race, religion, or nationality. German and Jew, Hutu and Tutsi. If societies are too segregated or divided, they are most likely to have genocide. The main way of preventing genocide at this early stage is to develop opportunities in a society for people to work and live together who are from different ethnic, social, national, or religious backgrounds. This will allow people to become tolerant and understanding of each other. In the United States, public schools serve this function, as they are places where all young people can go regardless of their ethnic, social, national, or religious backgrounds. This search for common ground is vital to early prevention of genocide. So the fact that there is a plan to get rid of schools and that they are not allowing schools to be safe places anymore is a problem, since that is only step 1. Step 2 is symbolization. We give names or other symbols to the classifications of ethnicity, race, religion, or nationality. We name people Jews or Gypsies, or distinguish them by colors or dress, and apply them to members of groups. Classification and symbolization are universally human and do not necessarily result in genocide unless they lead to the stage of dehumanization. When combined with hatred, symbols may be forced upon unwilling members of minority groups, the yellow star for Jews under Nazi rule, the blue scarf for people from the eastern zone of Khmer Rouge, Cambodia, Sometimes we impose symbols on ourselves, like gangs use certain colors. That is the group's right, but sometimes backfires when they are discriminated against. To combat symbolization, hate symbols can be legally forbidden, like swastikas, as can hate speech. Group marking, like gang clothing or tribal scarring, can be outlawed as well. We already know that Trump is demanding that the UK rescind that hate laws against hate speech against the LGBTQ community, or they won't do trade deals with them. The problem is that legal restrictions will fail if unsupported by society. Sometimes if we outlaw certain names, but hate exists, new names will just take their place, like now DEI is the replacement for the N-word. If widely supported, however, denial of symbolization can be powerful, as it was in Bulgaria, when many non-Jews chose to wear the yellow star, depriving it of its importance as a Nazi symbol for Jews. According to legend, in Denmark, the Nazis did not introduce the yellow star because they knew even the king would wear it. Step 3 is discrimination. A dominant group uses law, custom, and political power to deny the rights of other groups. The powerless group may not be given full civil rights or even citizenship. Examples include the Nuremberg Laws of 1935 in Nazi Germany, which stripped Jews of their German citizenship and prohibited their employment by the government and by universities. Prevention against discrimination means full political empowerment and citizenship rights for all groups in a society. Discrimination on the basis of nationality, ethnicity, race, or religion should be outlawed. Individuals should have the right to sue the state, corporations, and other individuals if their rights are violated. We know they're trying to do away with birthright citizenship and trying to strip other citizens of their citizenship as well, and even deporting citizens. Okay, step 4, dehumanization. Dehumanization is when one group treats another group as second-class citizens. Members of a persecuted group may be compared with animals, parasites, insects, or diseases. We saw that on the campaign trail from Trump. When a group of people is thought of as less than human, it is easier for the group in control to murder them. At this stage, hate propaganda in print and on hate radios is used to make the victims seem like villains. In fighting this dehumanization, one must remember that there is no right of freedom of speech to tell people to commit murder. Outlawing hate speech can help save the lives of those targeted. If a country is on the verge of committing genocide, it is no longer a democracy, if it was before. And the broad freedom of speech protected in a democracy may need to be limited in such a country. Hate radio stations should be shut down and the hate propaganda banned. Hate crimes and atrocities should be promptly punished. We kind of seem to be going the opposite direction on that. We were punishing hate crimes, and now we're not. I mean, the leader of our country is committing hate crimes on a daily basis. So, step 5, organization. Genocide is always organized, usually by the state, though sometimes informally or by terrorist groups. Special army units or militias are often trained and armed. Plans are made for genocidal killings. To combat this stage, membership in these militias should be outlawed. Their leaders should not be allowed to travel outside their country, where they may be able to raise funds or get weapons. The UN should enforce arms embargoes on governments and citizens of countries involved in genocidal massacres and create commission to investigate violations, as was done in post-genocidal Rwanda. Step 6, polarization. Extremists drive the groups apart. Hate groups broadcast propaganda that reinforces prejudice and hate. Laws may forbid intermarriage or social interaction between the groups. Extremist terrorism targets moderates. and intimidates them so that they are silent. Moderate leaders are those best able to prevent genocide, and they are often the first to be assassinated. Prevention may mean security protection for moderate leaders or assistance to human rights groups. Assets, like money and property, of extremists may be seized and opportunities for international travel denied to them. If extremists try to take over the government, then international sanctions should be put in place. At this point, the hate group has completely taken over our government. So at this point, it's going to be up to the International Criminal Court to come after them if we don't take care of it ourselves first. So, step 7, preparation. National or perpetrator group leaders plan the final solution to the Jewish, Armenian, Tutsi, or other targeted group question. They often use euphemisms to cloak their intention, such as referring to their goals as ethnic cleansing, purification, or counterterrorism. They build armies, buy weapons, and train their troops and militias. They indoctrinate the populace with fear of the victim group. Leaders often claim, if we don't kill them, they will kill us. Prevention of preparation may include arms embargoes and commissions to enforce them. It should include prosecution of incitement and conspiracy to commit genocide, both crimes under Article 3 of the Genocide Convention. This is how far India made it. According to the girl in that video this morning, they made it to step 7 before they put a stop to it. The United States has also definitely reached this stage, given all of the current conversation around ethnic cleansing, whether that be autism or immigrants. The eugenicists are thick in this administration. Let's check out step 8 and see if we've made it that far. Step 8 is persecution. Victims are identified and separated out because of their ethnic or religious identity. Death lists are drawn up. In state-sponsored genocide, members of victim groups may be forced to wear identifying symbols. Their property is often confiscated. Sometimes they are even segregated into ghettos, deported into concentration camps, or confined to a famine-struck region and starved. Genocidal massacres begin. They are acts of genocide because they intentionally destroy part of a group. At this stage, a genocidal emergency must be declared. If the political will of great powers, regional alliances, or the UN Security Council can be mobilized, armed international intervention should be prepared, or heavy assistance provided to the victim group to prepare for its self-defense. Humanitarian assistance should be organized by the UN and private relief groups for the inevitable tide of refugees to come. We have already begun sending people to concentration camps in El Salvador, so we have definitely reached step 8. Step 9 is extermination. Extermination begins and quickly becomes the mass killing legally called genocide. It is extermination to the killers because they do not believe their victims to be fully human. See dehumanization, which was step 4. When it is sponsored by the government, the armed forces often work with private armies to do the killing. We've just outsourced it to El Salvador for us. Sometimes the genocide results in revenge killings by groups against each other, creating the downward whirlpool-like cycle of mutual genocide, where the victims actually organize and commit a second genocide on the perpetrators. At this stage, only rapid and overwhelming armed intervention can stop genocide. Real safe areas or refugee escape regions should be established with heavily armed international protection. The UN needs troops that can go into genocidal areas and stop the killing when the UN Security Council calls it. The UN may decide to act through regional military forces from organizations like NATO. Relief groups should be prepared to assist the victims. If the UN will not get involved directly, powerful nations should provide the airlift equipment. and financial means necessary for regional states to intervene with UN authorization. And finally, step 10 is denial. Denial is the 10th stage that always follows genocide. It is among the surest indicators of further genocidal massacres. The perpetrators of genocide dig up the mass graves, burn the bodies, try to cover up the evidence, and intimidate the witnesses. They deny that they committed any crimes and often blame what happened on the victims. They block investigations of the crimes and continue to govern until driven from power by force. When they flee into exile, leaders of the genocide continue to deny the crime unless they are captured, and a tribunal, which is a special court, is established to try them. That's what happened to the Germans who escaped down to South America. The best response to denial is punishment by an international tribunal or national courts. There, the evidence can be heard and the perpetrators punished. Tribunals or international courts must be created. They may not prevent the worst genocidal killers, but at least some mass murderers may be brought to justice. The next page in this little article actually gave an assignment to read both this and A Brief History of the Armenian Genocide by Sarah Cohen. And I tried to find it and had a hard time, and then I found something that was very similar on the same website. But I'm not going to read this one right now because it is way too long. Although I did want to get to this quote that was way down here at the bottom, and it was something that Hitler actually said, and he apparently he spoke proudly of his intention to kill mercilessly, saying, "Who, after all, speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians?" And when I think back to my education, we know history always repeats itself, and I barely learned anything at all about World War II when I was in school, and nothing at all about World War I. But this final paragraph here altogether is important, that the Armenian genocide is considered the first modern genocide in the way it was systematically planned and implemented, because the perpetrators were not punished and no restitution was made to the victims. Adolf Hitler saw it as a valid precedent for his plan to wipe out the Jews of Europe. In a speech before invading Poland in 1939, and I already gave the quote. But if he got his education from what happened to the Armenians, and both the president of India and the United States both admire Hitler and look to him for how to handle their own takeover, I think it's important to maybe go through this article in a second video. But let me know if you're interested. And I'm going to end with this, which was a short thing I found when I was looking for the 10 stages of genocide. And it says why it's a useful framework. And it's useful because it explores a possible timeline of genocide. Elements that are included in the stages are common in most societies. Every systemic genocide has been built on a failure to challenge these behaviors, failures which can become problematic in specific social conditions. The 10 stages approach can help in potentially preventing future genocide. And I think we are at a critical moment to end this before we reach step 9, because I do believe we are at step 8. Comment below, let me know what you think, and let me know if you want me to go through the Armenian history. It's a short one, shorter than this anyway. And like and share the video.